Hi, this is Amanda.
And this is Jen.
And you're listening to Just This, a podcast that explores everything around being and becoming a mother or parent.
We're excited to have you join us as we dive into the practical details as well as the unseen energetics on topics that span from preconception to years after birth.
So today we're going to talk about mama friends. And Jen thinks this could be a really quick conversation.
Well, I was thinking specifically finding mama friends. Yeah, our conversations are never short. But I was thinking specifically finding mama friends because I feel like that's so hard for people. And do you find it hard to find mama friends?
Yeah, I just think there's so many places we could go. Like immediate outline in my head is where you are when you give birth in comparison to the group of friends you're around, how you change as a mom. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, the finding part, the other part is finding friends that seem to be in alignment with the person you are, not just we're friends because we're both moms and our kids are friends. There's a lot of things we could cover here, Jen. Right. Let's start from just giving birth.
Giving birth?
We can even have a conversation. Like I was one of the first in my friend group to have a child. Mm-hmm. So that in itself, I didn't have a lot of friends that were parents as it was.
Yeah.
And I later found out it's because you become very busy and have absolutely no personal time once you have a child.
That's right. And non-baby friends, it's like a whole nother world that I think, and not that they're not willing to do things with you, but it just changes the dynamics of everything if they are to hang out with you and what you do and stuff. I was thinking that I think mama circles are great, but I've never really recall making a great connection through a mama circle, breastfeeding support or postpartum support. Have you ever made a good connection through those?
So I was supposed to give birth at the San Francisco Birth Center, which is birth centers are an in-between from, it's not a hospital, but it's not at home. It's a space where there's midwives and you give birth at. And they did a great thing that I didn't realize they don't do this at hospitals, which I don't know why that wasn't obvious to me, but they match you with a set of other parents or moms that will be giving birth around the same time. So within 4 weeks, usually, or 5 weeks. So the due dates are all within that time span. And then in that match, they had, as your pregnancy progressed, it started with, okay, once a month you come in and we do some educational piece. And then as it gets closer, like that's the first trimester. I think that was even like second, but as it gets closer, you're coming in then once every 2 weeks. And then in the last month, it's once a week kind of thing, or last few weeks leading up to your birth. And in those, they did a mixture of bonding with the other parents. So you got some time to speak and a little bit of that kind of stuff, and also educational pieces. And I thought this was the smartest model. Do you guys do this at all with your home birth?
We don't, but we should.
It was
very smart. Yeah.
It was amazing. It not only gave me so many educational pieces as a first-time parent that weren't just your typical giving birth class. I never took one of those typical ones, and I'm glad I didn't. I took Rachel Yellen's, we'll link to this, her Yes to Birth class, which was amazing for me, but mostly for my partner to prepare him on how to support me. And then I did these, I felt like everything they gave me at the birth center was enough to prepare me, not just for the birth, but also they even talked about things postpartum. They started talking about things. And it was everything from alternative, okay, here's ways to increase your iron intake, even through teas. And we had like a tea sampling and just really everything from the practical to the alternative, just like this podcast. And I appreciated that. It very much vibed with me. And those parents I connected with, I would say there's only, granted, COVID was after I gave birth. So out of all those parents, there's only one other. There was, I think, 8 of us originally. Only one of those lives in the Bay Area now. Everyone else moved away. But I still keep in touch with that parent. I appreciate them, and I feel like they're on the same kind of in alignment with me. Not everyone in the group was, but I did give, I think it is important to have other people who are going through what you're going through with at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in a group like that, and there's 10, I think originally there was 10 and a couple dropped out, there's chances that you're going to connect with one or two. And that gives you someone that's actually in the space that you're going to. And beyond giving birth, the birth center had weekly parents groups where you could just drop in. It wasn't a sign up or anything. You just drop in if you wanted to. And it would be anyone who had given birth at the birth center could come. But usually once your child was over a year old, people kind of dropped off.
Yeah.
And that was beneficial. I did not make friends from that group. I think I only bonded with the people because you were repeatedly seeing, and it was an intimate group versus I think what you're mentioning with the La Leche League or some of these other moms groups that are more drop-in, like parent play groups, baby play groups, mom play groups. Those ones tend to be varied every week with who's coming, and they are less intimate as far as size-wise. So definitely. I think the key, if you're going to actually connect with people, is the intimacy piece, like the size, and then the repetition. Of who showing up. I'm curious what you did, because you did a home birth and you now are on the side of giving home births. So what did you do? What do you guys offer? And then we can go into how we found friends. Because it was super lonely.
Well, it is. And I think finding friends in general, like even as an adult, is difficult. It's challenging. And then now you add this other component to it of finding a mama friend with a kid that's around the same age, right? Like it doesn't have to be exact, but ideally around the same age. And then of course, depending on how old, you can kind of spread that gap a little bit. If your kid's 1 and the kid's 1.5, it's not such a huge difference. But if they're 1 and 5, that's a big gap, right? But it's interesting that you say about the repetition, because I met one mama friend through a music class that I still talk to and communicate with. We actually haven't connected in a while, but that's just because life happens. But if I reached out to her, hey, let's meet up, we would make it happen. She reaches out every now and then too. But yeah, those drop-in classes, support groups, they're really hard, I think, to maintain a friendship unless you're actively meeting up outside of that support group regularly. And I was thinking too, because it's so hard and people ask, how do you make mama friends? And I think the best way is to join those support groups, and you have to really put yourself out there and then offer to, hey, would you like to go to the park? Would you like to meet up at this indoor play structure with the kids? And it's hard because you're going to get a ton of no's. I feel like it's almost like dating. You're going to get a ton of no's until you finally find someone that will connect with you and go with you to those places.
On the note of dating, I wanted to talk about the Peanut app, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
No, actually I'm not. What is this?
Okay, so somebody had told me about this after I had given birth, because as we're talking about, you get to a point where you've stabilized from the wave of like being thrown into being a parent, and that somebody said there's this app called Peanut, and it's still out there, I think, and it's like Tinder for parents. Cool. And it's for moms mostly. I don't feel like I saw any dads on there, but maybe there is. Maybe it's just because I said I was looking to meet other moms. And you literally have a little profile with little bits of information, and you swipe left or right.
Oh my God.
And whether you feel like they're a match. And then if you have a match with another mom, you can plan to then plan a meetup or whatever.
Yeah.
I never actually went through. I think I matched with some people, but it never actually led to any meetups, but it was kind of hilarious. And I can see the value of it because I didn't know where to turn to look for other mom friends. That was just a side.
I like it. Yeah. And I think the main thing that I've learned is just constantly putting yourself out there and asking people and talking to moms, really try to open up that conversation and get to know them. And now, like looking back, I think that it would be helpful to have somebody that had similar and same interests as you. And I don't know really how you would find that, but I think it'd be kind of interesting, even on online platforms or mom groups. And then maybe those kind of hobbies like will get you more connected than just like a random person.
There's a few things that come to mind here. Well, let's just transition to this. One of the things I feel I've learned is it does help to have that container of while you might not want to pay, sometimes it's worth paying to be in a group.
Mm-hmm.
And as I progressed in my motherhood journey, I realized it wasn't as much about having the other people having another kid, the friends having another kid, is being okay being around me with my kid.
Mm-hmm.
And let's start with those two. The friends being okay with being around my kid, I think that's part of the whole, as we know, we're changing with every child, and who you are is going to likely evolve over that first year and beyond with your kid. And that in itself is probably going to change the people you're around. And that might be why we're having such an urge to find friends. I'm putting this in quote because like, okay, another friend who has a kid. But what I found in the end, and COVID sifted out, I feel like first of all, I went through the whole, okay, I'm not the same person I used to be. I was trying really hard to be the same person. And then I just decided to kick that to the wind after going to Burning Man. But realize I'm like, stop trying to be the same person I used to be. I'm a different person. Be okay with that.
Yeah.
And when I came to that actual internal realization, then I had no problem setting my boundaries and realizing this energetically is not a match for me anymore. A friend that I used to hang out with, and not trying and efforting. This whole thing about putting yourself out there, it is true. You have to put yourself out there. But I think there's a point too where you need to figure out where are you over efforting. Because if you're over efforting to make a friendship happen, then that's just not a natural friendship. And it's not worth your energy to do that.
I mean, by over efforting, I mean like the initial like talking, because I don't think we're good
putting yourself
at like,
out there.
Yeah, not you're constantly, hey, when are we going to meet up? When are we going to meet up? No, the initial, throw it out there. Hey, let's meet for a park date. If they don't respond, then like not worth the effort.
In that knowing too, what friendships do you have from pre-child or pre-new child or whatever it is that maybe you're energetically feeding a lot into that you don't need to feed into anymore. And that energy could be used into fighting another thing. So that was my big lesson too, is I felt like when I shifted the quality of realizing, oh, these are the friends that actually can meet me with where I'm at in my life right now and understand it, and not just understand it, but respect it and honor it and love hanging out with me and my daughter all the time, then all of a sudden I didn't really have to try to find the mom friends. I felt like it just energetically, we're coming back to the energetics, like don't know the science behind this, but energetically I was able to then attract more friends like you who had children and were moms and were more in alignment. So I think for me, getting clear on being okay with the changing person I was and my new values and my new way of being, and really stepping into that, then allowed me to also stop spending energy on people that weren't worth my time anymore. And then that just opened up space for new mom friends to come.
That makes a lot of sense.
I also think there's a difference based on where you live, because I live in a big city and you now live in Reno, and you probably even experienced this in a smaller city. The difference of where you live really can change how you connect with people in your neighborhood, in your city, in your town, whatever it is. And unfortunately, I feel like the big cities, it can be more work to really find the people.
It's interesting. I think, kind of now that we're talking here, it's interesting. I found two of my mama friends that lived close to me that we just saw in walking, and eventually we'd see each other so much that we'd like stop and chat for a little bit. And I think especially when you're a stay-at-home mom and you're not getting any conversations, sometimes when you speak with another adult human. And then the other one, even moving here to Reno, I felt very just blessed. And I just met a ton of their parents and mama friends. And you're right. Those were definitely effortless. I put it out there. Hey, I need to meet people because I need the support, especially moving to Reno where I don't have any family or friends nearby. So I really put it out there, and I got 3, 4, 5 family friends that became really close, and we really connected. And I think also that closeness is partly that we do have similar parenting styles, not exact. There's definitely things that those parents do that we don't do, but there's respect in our parenting. And there's also enough parenting similarities that when we leave each other with our kids, we know that they will be okay, that they're not so different that we're worried in that way too. And so that is interesting about that effortlessness. I really didn't have a lot of friends prior to birth. So all mine were just gaining them from that point and perspective forward.
No friends at all?
No friends at all. I'm trying to think. I mean, I had some, but not really. Not really. Like I disconnected with a lot of them. Yeah. I know, it's crazy.
It's so sad.
It's so sad. Yeah.
But I don't know, maybe that's easier.
Yeah. I think that the relationship probably didn't support more friends.
The
put it that way. Yeah.
And I want to mention, it's important having community, especially once you're, I not say especially, I think for anyone, it's very important. But yeah, what makes having your journey as a parent so much more, even for men, I see this over and over when they have a community of other parents, whether it's male or female, that they can talk to or relate to. There is a big difference, I feel like, with what the woman experiences versus what the man, especially in that first year. There's understanding, but obviously the lived experience is going to be very different. And I do think it is nice and helpful. I like to connect with other women sometimes just about things because they get it. And I think for men too, it's valuable for them to have other men that they can relate to in the experience. And if you're a same-sex parenting group, there's all these things that's definitely worth finding the community out there on.
Yeah. I think too, I have to say too, just on the little topic of dads, I always kind of felt bad because there's still a higher amount of mamas, I feel, that are watching their kids and taking care of them, especially during the day and post-birth, like right immediately post-birth up to like 3 to 6 months. And I always kind of felt bad for the dad because they just don't have as many men to connect with, but they're still taking care of baby.
This is a thing. If you see a dad out there, go and say hi, because this is actually I just want to bring really quick 2 points up about this. So my dad is a stay-at-home parent now with a whole nother round of children. And he says all the time that he's not really welcomed into the mom circles, or I think it's what you're saying, don't know how to relate. And probably his age doesn't help, but the one time, you know how you're saying, put yourself out there. I'll be at a playground or be somewhere with my daughter and the kids will be playing, and then sometimes Penelope's like, let's invite them over to my house. And I'm like, okay. And the parent just kind of waves it off and it's like, okay, see you later. Bye. Doesn't really want to connect. The one time that the kids were playing down at the beach close to us here, and Penelope's like, hey, let's hang out again. It was a dad that was with her, came up and was like, do you want to exchange numbers? And I just thought it was very interesting. Out of all the times, it was the dad.
And I get the whole, like, going to someone's house that you just met at the park, probably not feeling the safest.
Well, I mean, it starts
phone number exchange. I get.
I was gonna say that's what in the kids' mind. It's like, okay, this is great, let's go. But usually it's just that's the opening door. Hey, do you want to do another play date?
Totally. And I think the other last thing too that is important when like looking or finding for another mama friend is it's the connection first, obviously, first and foremost. But then I realized too, it's like about scheduling. If you have a great connection, but then your schedules just don't align, you'll never have a meetup or a play date or anything like that. So to kind of like wrap up this mini topic is, I think, kind of put yourself out there in that sense, and then join groups that have consistency, things that you're interested in, right? Like gymnastics, music class, whatever it is. And then I think even if you went to the park at the same time each day, you'd probably start to see people that do that. And then in groups, put out there, hey, going to go for a walk around the park at this time every day of the week. If you ever want to join, I meet here, and then wait 5 minutes after, reach out for my phone number or something. And I did a lot of walking with friends. I loved it.
There's lots and lots of ways. I think my big tips are join groups that have consistency and be willing to pay. Just find those intimate, repetitive groups and join groups that interest you. There's some of them are more open-ended, which is totally fine. I think leaning into things that really interest you and that you can bring your child to, whether or not the other people there have kids or not, that'll allow you to really build these connections. And then the people with kids will just fall into that category.
Yes. I love that. That's the best. Yeah. I agree to that too. So
yeah, if you have other cool ways, like your tips on how you met your mama friends, or let us know. I feel like we might do a part 2 on this and expand on it more. So
okay.
tell us the cool apps that you know, like Peanut and stuff. Give us some more weird random
Parenting
things like
date apps.
Because when I found out about that, I was like, what?
Hey there, amazing listeners. We just want to say a huge thank you for tuning into our convo on the Just This podcast today. We appreciate each and every one of our listeners, and your continued support means the world to us.
If you enjoyed this episode and found value in it, we would be incredibly grateful if you could take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform, or share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it too. Your reviews and shares not only motivate us, but they also help others discover our show.
We're also all about keeping the conversation going and hanging out with our incredible community. Head over to justthis.site, that's justhis.site, where you'll find additional resources, ways to connect with us, and join the conversation, plus some more goodies.
Thank you again for being a part of the Just This community. We'll be back soon. Until next time, remember to take care of yourself and embrace the wonder as you navigate this extraordinary adventure.